Please, subscribe to the channel, click the like button on the video, and activate the notification bell to receive all the latest updates. 1. Despair is the conclusion of fools. Benjamin Disraeli. 2. The greatest degree of inner tranquility comes from the development of love and compassion. The more we care for the happiness of others, the greater is our sense of well-being. Dalai Lama. 3. Despair is the damp of hell, as joy is the serenity of heaven. John Donne. 4. Despair is the price one pays for self-awareness. Look deeply into life, and you'll always find despair. Irvin D. Yalom. 5. The deadliest of all deadly things, it kills you both when you have it and when you don't. John Green. 6. Despair is the absolute extreme of self-love. It is reached when a man deliberately turns his back on all help from anyone else in order to taste the rotten luxury of knowing himself to be lost. Thomas Merton. 7. In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer. Albert Camus. 8. Even in the deepest despair, there is always hope. Buddha. 9. When hope is fleeting, stop for a moment and visualize, in a sky of silver, the crescent of a lavender moon. Vera Nazarian. 10. There is no despair so absolute as that which comes with the first moments of our first great sorrow, when we have not yet known what it is to have suffered and healed, to have despaired and recovered hope. George Eliot. 11. Despair is sometimes the great energizer of hopelessness. Howard Zinn. 12. There is no such thing as pure despair, only moments of despair. Ron Suskind. 13. Despair is the offspring of fear, of laziness and impatience. It argues a defect of spirit and resolution, and oftentimes of honesty too. Samuel Richardson. 14. The word despair is overused and banalized now, but it's a genuine diagnosis. When you're in it, you're in it. David Foster Wallace. 15. Despair is perfectly compatible with a good dinner, I promise you. William Makepeace Thackeray. 16. Despair is the ultimate expression of a life without hope. Brian Richardson. 17. Despair is like a gas, you can't see it or smell it, and yet if you get enough of it, you're dead. Michael Grant. 18. Despair is the feeling that everything is too late. François de la Rochefoucauld. 19. Despair is the constant companion of the clown. Angela Carter. 20. The cure for despair is not hope. It's action. Junot Diaz. 21. Despair is the narcotic that leaves the addict empty but yearning for more. Dean Koontz. 22. Despair is the cruel consequence of setting your expectations unrealistically high. Lionel Suggs. 23. Despair is the offspring of a thwarted sense of entitlement. Russell Moore. 24. Despair is the price one pays for self-awareness. Look deeply into life, and you'll always find despair. Irvin D. Yalom. 25. Despair is the true muse, inspiration, and audience of great art. Ken Poirot. 26. Despair makes victims sometimes victors, sometimes corpses. Aberjohnny. 27. Despair is the awkward time between happy ending and new beginning. Alexandra Potter. 28. Despair is the absence of hope, but hope is the absence of despair. Daniel Yanez. 29. Despair is the damp of hell, as joy is the serenity of heaven. John Donne. 30. Despair is the outcome of each earnest attempt to go through life at high tide. F. H. Bradley. 31. Despair is the negative force. It's the dark. It's the nothing. Cory Doctorow. 32. Despair is the refuge of the hopeless. Al Pacino. 33. Despair is the relentless shadow in the corner, waiting to envelop the world. Mark Lawrence. 34. Despair is the rust of the soul. Paul Bourget. 35. Despair is the state that leads to suicide or creative energy. Mark Duplass. 36. Despair is the temper of the brave. Edward George Earl Bulwer Lytton. 37. Despair is the twin of folly. Thomas Carlyle. 38. Despair is the uneasy feeling that, as things are, nothing will turn out well. Dawson Trotman. 39. Despair is the unceasing prompter. Marquis de Sade. 40. Despair is the very opposite of hope, and the very opposite of life. Jerome K. Jerome. 41. Despair is like a gas. It can drain away all of the good elements, and you're left gasping for breath in a vacuum. Michael Grant. 42. Despair is like a drug. It can kill you in small doses. Libba Bray. 43. Despair is like dry rot. It is hidden from view, spreads quickly, and by the time it is noticed, it has caused irreparable damage. Lemony Snicket. 44. Despair is like finding yourself caught in a spider's web. The more you struggle, the more entangled you become. V.C. Andrews. 45. Despair is like quicksand, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. Anonymous. 46. Despair is never knowing the end of your own story. Elizabeth Wine. 47. Despair is perhaps the greatest enemy humanity faces. It can cripple the strongest of souls. Sonia Watson. 48. Despair is the absence of light in a world of shadows. J. Kenner. 49. Despair is the feeling of being in a box, sealed shut, with no way out. Julian Casablancas. 50. Despair is the absence of faith in yourself. Anne Rice.